So lately I've been thinking, what makes for a great EDC knife? Well, it's got to have good materials. It's got to have great cutting geometry. It needs to have amazing ergonomics, and it's got to be something that you ultimately feel good carrying, which for a lot of people means that you are eliminating really expensive knives out of that category. If it's too expensive for you to use, it's not a great EDC knife. And if it's too cheap, chances are that it's not going to make you feel very good when you go to carry it. So there's got to be a middle ground. There has to be a sweet spot. And today we have reached that sweet spot because we've got a brand new knife on the review table from our friends over at Vosteed. Vosteed has recently released a brand new knife, and if you're a fan of theirs, I think you're going to want to check it out. Let's go ahead and talk about the brand new Vosteed Akita.
This is Sparta!
Hey, how's it going, everybody? If you're new here, welcome in. And if you've been here before, smash the like button on the way in. I'm Rollshambo, the connoisseur and collector of all things sharp and shiny. And today I'm excited because we've got a new release from Vosteed, the company which has been absolutely blowing it out of the water with new designs all through last year and the year before. And you know what? They're still going strong because to start off 2025, this is, at least as far as I know, their newest design and their very first release of the year. So how well did they do? Before we get started, big shout out and a thank you to Vosteed for sending this my way. And with full transparency, I reached out to them and I requested it because the moment that I saw them tease this on their Instagram, I knew that this could potentially be one hell of an EDC pocket dominator for a variety of different reasons. But you might be wondering, okay, that's cool. I can see some cool stuff on here, but what does it cost? What are we working with? The Vosteed Akita comes in at $139, and your hard-earned money goes far with this knife, coming in at about 7.1 inches. The blade itself is this semi-polished, semi-gloss style stonewash, which holds up really well to wear and tear. It's S35 VN. On the handle scales, we've got this really nicely hard coat anodized aluminum featuring the Vancor lock. There's a lot of cool new knife locks that are emerging into the market, and the Vancor lock by Vosteed is one of them. It is essentially a pivot actuated liner lock that uses magnets. Yes, it's very fidgety. It's very finger safe. Also, this one features the golf ball style patterned milling on these handle scales. But if you don't like that, they do have a sunburst style aluminum handle scale version. You can get them in a couple different colors. If you're interested, I will, of course, leave a couple affiliate links down in the description down below. On the handle scales, we've got T8 hardware all the way around except for on the pivot. The pivot has T6. Moving to the back side, we've got this really nicely done deep carry stamped pocket clip. This one is very reflective. We've got a brass colored lanyard tube right there. The lanyard goes right through the handle scales. And then here on the spine of the blade, we've got a decent amount of jimping. And that jimping exists for two reasons, not just to give you a nice lockup, but also to utilize this front flipper. We have two deployment options here, featuring the deployment hole and the front flipper. And how well do they work? Because one of the things Vosteed is truly known for is making one of the most fidgety knives ever. So let's go ahead and see, did they live up to their name? Reverse flick is good action on that pivot lock, on that Vancor lock is really good. Front flipper, very snappy. Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. Now, unlike many plunge lock designs or many button lock designs, this one does have a traditional style ceramic detent ball because it's not just a pivot lock. It actuates a liner which has a ceramic detent ball, and so you get a nice clicky detent. Deployment is very smooth. One of the things I want to mention is that the pivot did come a little over tightened right out of the box. No worries. If you feel like there's a bit of rub going on right out of the box, just loosen up these two T6 pivots a little bit and check for blade play. Just loosen a little bit and you'll notice that the action becomes like a straight guillotine and it's very smooth. So if the action feels chalky, you just got to loosen up the pivot just a tiny bit. If you introduce blade play, you've gone too far. If it feels chalky, you haven't gone far enough. And if you didn't know, now you know. Furthermore, the pocket clip itself is ambidextrous. You can flip it over to the other side. Unlike with previous ambidextrous clips from Vosteed, instead of using an insert right here, they actually use just 2 screws to go ahead and act as thread protectors. But I understand. Many people are going to be looking at this and saying, Rollshambo, that's cool. I just wish it was bigger. I just wish it was bigger. I need to feel like I've got a big old hunk in my hand. How's the ergos? The ergos on this are really good. And I got to say, if you've ever held something like a Spyderco Para 3 and you felt like you were at home with that knife because you got a really nice natural choked up grip each and every time, and it's something that's easy to index, this is going to feel right at home in your hand, because just like with the Para 3, we've got a finger choil here, and I do call this a finger choil because it extends past the plunge grind, which means that it was intended to do more than just save the edge termination of your blade, which, by the way, it does pretty good. They've done a beautiful job anodizing this aluminum handle scales, and the S35VN is a great choice for an EDC style knife under 150 bucks. This is going to give you a lot of really premium feeling knife. We've got a new age style lock in that Vancor lock. We've got really good fidgety action. Everything in the fit and finish and the quality of life is well done. Look at that. Absolutely perfectly centered. And then of course, is there any blade play? Nah, no wiggle, no jiggle. It's doing 25 to life. It's locked up and locked out. And I gotta say, guys, like, this is one of those knives that is really going to fit well, specifically with the hardcore EDC enthusiasts, the people that want to carry a knife and feel good about it and be able to show it off to people, but also that same person that wants to take it out and use it. You know, there's plenty of people here in the hobby that they say that they're enthusiasts, but really they're collectors. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I'm a bit of a collector myself, but for me, I've got to carry everything that I own. And I really enjoy this design because the aluminum feels good. This is aircraft grade aluminum, and the hard coat ano is not going to scratch as easy as something like titanium. But being that it's aluminum and S35VN, it's actually a really perfect user combo. I'll say it again, it's a great user combo because it looks good, it feels premium, and it's also not something that's so expensive that you're never going to carry it. If all you do is sit on your couch and flip your knife, you're not really getting the most out of it, and there's no judgment. If that is you, there's absolutely no judgment. But this is 100% a knife that during the last couple of days that I carried this, I really enjoyed it. Now, you might be wondering, well, you know, you carried it. Did you cut with it? Yes, I did. And I also took the time to record me cutting through some cardboard. The edge geometry on here is very slicey, and this is going to work especially well if you are someone that prefers a curved edge on your blade. That curved edge can be very useful for people that do anything like skinning, or if you like to cut along a seam, it'll do that without punching through like something like a Wharncliffe or even a sheep's foot is liable to do. This is going to be a great all-around knife. On the blade itself, we've got a good swedge here, which offers some nice cutting relief, and it means that you can move through materials pretty well. So does that mean that I love absolutely everything about this knife and that Vosteed can do no wrong and I have no notes or feedback? No, there's always at least something that I can talk about that I would wish to change or improve on. And in this case, it's going to come in the form of two things. Starting off with this one, the pocket clip. Now, I'm a big fan of when hardware matches. And so this is reflective. I'm not the biggest fan of reflective pocket clips. They just tend to draw attention and fingerprints and smudges and yeah, and while it does match the T8 body screws, it doesn't necessarily match the matte finish on that Vancor lock pivot. yeah, I would prefer that if we're going to do shiny screws and shiny clip, that we also get the pivot to match as well. I don't know how possible that is. It's just something that's on my wish list. And speaking of the pivot, that brings me to item number 2. And this is something that's prevalent amongst all of the Vancor lock knives. And that is that the side that you tighten or that you take off in order to take the knife apart always seems to utilize T6 screws. I don't know how we get to the point where we have T8 body screws everywhere and T8 pocket clip screws, but the pivot itself is T6. That seems almost backwards. You know, how many knives do I ever say, oh, it's got T8 pivot and T6 screws? Well, in this case, it's got, you know, T8 body screws and T6 pivot. And then lastly, is not really a con, but it is something that I would make a recommendation for it. And that is because this is a knife that's meant to be choked up on, your thumb is naturally going to ride up. And when you do that, you get less jimping over here because they didn't extend the jimping all the way to the apex of that blade. If you wanted to get the most out of a choked up grip, that jimping should extend all the way to here because that is where your thumb will naturally ride up. Think about the jimping as the perfect place for your thumb to rest in any position that you're holding it. In a regular grip, it's perfect, works really well. It's not the deepest jimping in the world, but it'll definitely give you the traction you need to make those cuts. If you're doing something like a pinch grip, it's perfect. You just trigger pull with your middle finger right here, index finger goes near the tip, and you've got excellent control. If you need to switch it up, you can do that. No muss, no fuss. It indexes really well in the hand. Reverse grip feels great. Ultimately, they did an amazing job. At $139, this is one of those knives that's hard to beat, but I am curious, what are your thoughts on the brand new Vosteed Akita? Did you pick one of these up? Were you waiting to see some reviews, or is this one a pass for you? If not, why not? Let's have that discussion down in the comments section down below. Guys, YouTube tells me that most people that watch my videos have not subscribed yet. So what are you doing? Keep an eye out. The subscribe button will pop up in the corner here in a second. But if you just want to watch some more awesome knife and EDC content, feel free to click on one of the videos that pops up next.